Yes, this is Greg Smith, and in today's video, we are going to talk about how to overcome procrastination and the difference in between consuming versus preparing. You know, if you are an entrepreneur, there are many times where you can get caught in a vicious cycle of believing that you're preparing to get something done or preparing for a project, when in reality, you're unintentionally consuming information. You know, most people will listen to podcasts, they'll read books, but in the end, they don't actually progress toward the goal that they actually want to achieve. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a few steps to overcome that, identify some things, and actually take action to where you'll get closer to your goal and what it is that you're trying to achieve. So here's the very first thing that we have to do. Is number one is we have to take inventory on where are we now, okay? Where are we now? That's this line here. On this side, what we have to do is look at what is our goal and what is it that we're trying to achieve, okay? So what is the goal? What's the end goal, right? What is the end goal? What is it that we're trying to achieve? And where are we currently at this point in time, okay? Because here's typically, we obviously want to go from point A to point B, okay? But in between there, we have a few different steps to get us toward the goal. All right, so these are little arrows going this way. This is the goal. What we got to do is identify where we are. Oftentimes, as we're consuming versus preparing, we'll continually be doing this. Just going in circles, going in circles, going in circles, but we never go here. Okay, so how do we do that? What do we actually do in order to start consuming information that will actually get us to our goal? Sometimes you may not need more information. So we had a clear goal in mind. You probably have a clear goal right now. Identify where you are currently. All right, so we're going to identify where you currently are. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to look at what is it that is unknown. What is it that's unknown? So we identify the unknowns. What is it that I don't know how to do? What is it that I do know how to do? What is it that I may not even know that needs to be done yet? We identify those things. Then we come here and we consume and learn that information. We consume and we learn only information that is pertinent to the next step. And here's typically what we find. If you're anything like me, you can find yourself over here and you're like, okay, I'm here now and I want to be here. And I look at all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do stuff that's here. Okay, I don't know how to do stuff that's here. But what I do know how to do is stuff that can get me to here. Okay? We need to execute that. It's called just-in-time learning. Tony Robbins talks about this. You have just-in-time versus just-in-case. All right? If you're like most entrepreneurs, you find yourself consuming just-in-case information. Well, just-in-case may or may never come. But just-in-time for what we need now, as long as we identify it, will get us further towards our goal. So we identify, okay, what is it that we don't know? What is it that we need to learn? And what is it that we need to figure out how to do, or who can we find that already knows how to do this and we can hire them if you have enough funds within your business to be able to do that or wherever you're at. But if you're kind of bootstrapping things like I've done with many of my companies, usually the first person is you, and you have to figure out what it is that needs to get done. You have to figure out how to actually do it, and then you can transcend into a different role and pass that on, but you typically have to learn it first. So we consume and we learn just in time information. Then we create our task and our to-dos, and we apply. This is the key. Application, okay? Consuming without application serves no purpose. That's unintentional consuming. We can just learn to learn and we can feel good. But oftentimes, as an entrepreneur, you can read the next book or listen to the next podcast. And all you do is you're taking in information. You're like, oh, I need to listen to this and this feels good. And then, if you're like Many entrepreneurs, you kind of have a little ADD, and then all of a sudden you're listening to a podcast about something that's not related to the current project that's at hand to get you to your end goal. And oftentimes we find ourselves trying to figure out, why am I stuck over here and not getting here? It's because we're either consumed with trying to figure out these problems, but we're not applying and doing this. So I think within this little cycle that I've given you today is you start to ask yourself, am I actually preparing right now, or am I unintentionally consuming information? If you are preparing, you can clearly state, okay, where you are now. You can clearly identify where we are now, and we can clearly state what the end goal is, and you can say what you are consuming and learning and why. You can clearly say, I'm listening to this podcast because, I'm reading this book because, I'm buying this course because, I need to learn this, and I don't know this. So you are clearly identifying where you are now, what the end goal is. You've identified your unknowns. Once you identify your unknowns, you can clearly start to consume and learn things to help you learn those unknowns, right? And you can state very clearly why you are not just consuming and why you're actually preparing, because you're reading something because you need to learn an unknown. You're taking a course because you need to learn an unknown. You're watching this video right now because you have an unknown of how to get out of this perpetual state of unintentional consuming. Then after we learn what it is that we need to learn, we can start to create our tasks and to-dos. So over here, kind of in between, we have tasks and to-dos. Okay? Once you create those tasks and to-dos, because you have now learned what it is that you didn't know, you can start to take that and apply it. And what that will do is that will get you to the next step. And that's really all that matters, is that you get to the next step. You may not have all the information that you need, but at least you have enough information to get you to the next step. Then when you get to this next step right here, what do? You come back down here and you identify, what is it that I don't know that I need to learn in order to get me to the next step? Once you identify what it is that you don't know and what you need to learn, you go through the process again, and you consume and you learn only things that are just in time to apply to the project or the goal that is at hand to get you to the next step. You create the task and to-dos, and these may be things that you do yourself, or they may be things that you hire out. Either way, now you know the actual things that need to get done, then you apply it. And if you're here and you identify, where am I now, and you identify that you already know the task and things that need to get done, if you're watching this video right now and you have a project and you already know the things that you need to do to get to the next step, do it. Do it now. Do it now. That's what you got to do. Is you got to start doing the things that you already know how to do to get you to the next step. Then, when you get to a point where you have an unknown, you identify that and you only learn information that applies to that unknown. And then once you have the unknown known, you create the task, the to-do list, you either do it yourself or you hire out, but most importantly, you apply that information, and that puts you, boom, to the next step. And once you get to the next step, within your goal, guess what you do? You come back down here, you identify again, you consume and learn, and you create your to-do and your task, and you either hire out or you apply it yourself. But either way, you apply those things and you get it done. And ultimately, as you go throughout this cycle, I believe if you get in a pattern of identifying and getting real with where you are, real with where you want to go, and what the next step is. You may not have the full picture, but we can take the next step. Then you can start to apply and only learn and consume the things that are pertinent to that next step. Do not get caught in a perpetual state of consuming versus preparing. So I challenge you to always be preparing to take the next step and to apply. All right? So until next time, take care, rise above.